Last spring I taught a class on game engines using the Unreal Game Engine. So I've edited those, and this is the section that I did on creating multiplayer games. Now, we didn't go fully in depth into creating multiplayer games, but it does give a nice introduction if you are looking to start creating multiplayer games with the Unreal Engine. The demonstration was using 5.1.1. So it should be relevant for anybody that's going forward with 5.2 of the Unreal Engine, and it should all work. But before we begin, pay the class fee of a like or subscribe. So we're going into Unreal 5. You just simply need to launch it, and you're going to create, let me launch it. You are creating a new game. So brand new game. So launch Unreal. And once you're there, we're going to create a third person. So you're going to select games and third person. Make sure you have your starter content. We do not need to turn on ray tracing. I'm sorry? Yes. Yes. I am recording this. And so blueprints, target platform desktop. I named mine DET 340 multiplayer. I know it's a real original name. No, you do not need ray tracing, but you do want starter content. And we're going to start with third person. As we discussed in Discord, we're going to do some kind of a puzzle. I have not worked out what that puzzle is, but we're going to do some kind of puzzle.
Platform 2?
I don't know.
Platform 2?
I'm sorry?
Platform 2?
I still didn't hear you.
Platforming 2, maybe? That's what
Maybe.
I was just saying that in a silly way. Sorry.
Maybe. I don't know. And once you're there, just hit play. And you should get either Manny or Quinn. You got it done. And you can run around inside the environment. It's already.
Oh, wow. I can actually platform off these blocks. That's just really cool.
Now. Okay, hit escape if you were running. If you're still starting, you don't need to hit escape. Okay, ready to get technical? No, don't do it. Hit the 3, is it 3 or 4? I don't have my glasses. 3 vertical dots. Go down, and it's going to say number of players. Change that to 2. Let's just go with 2. Next, on the net mode, say play as listen server. Play as listen server, number of players 2, hit the play button. Now you should get 2 screens and 2 people. Moving around one of the characters on one of the screens, I'm going to shrink my screen down here so I can have both of them. And if you hit Alt-Tab, you can switch between your screens.
If you just want your cursor to bring up, do Shift F1. That'll allow you to free your cursor.
Shift F1 to free your cursor.
Oh, Shift F.
Shift F1 to free bring the cursor back. You may need to shrink one of the screens to be able to see both of them. So I've got both. I'm both players right now on my laptop, which should have your fans kicking on. So we've got multiplayer happening on our device.
Yeah, it's kind of like
So, curious, on the, so we're changing the deck to the listen server.
Yes.
Does that mean that the game world is kind of our home server? And when we're
Excellent.
getting input that
Thank you
comes
for
in,
opening the next topic. So, what is a listen server?
is it a big listener that receives input from the various player clients, and compiles that all kind of relative, kind of averages everything out in the game world?
Basically, yes. So there's multiple types of servers. We have a listen server, which can also be a player. Anybody used to do LAN parties?
Yeah, a little bit.
I realize that's more of a 90s thing, early 2000s thing.
I always wanted to, but
Yeah, it was a big deal.
was a thing.
Right.
So,
Yeah, you had Xbox and PlayStation. You didn't have to.
those images have been showing up on the internet recently. LAN parties going on.
Yeah. So LAN parties were a huge thing. Hundreds of, from 5 or 10 people would bring their computers together, network them together with hardwire, not Wi-Fi, connect it to one computer that acted as the server, which hosted the game, and everybody would connect to that game, and you could go first-person shooter or real-time strategy, or there was a variety of different types. But they were all from running on one specific server. If you didn't have an extra computer, because, who has an extra computer just laying around? Okay, all of us. But a listen server didn't have to be a very powerful computer because it wasn't displaying any of the graphics. All it was doing was handling all the network exchange between players, updating their information from player to player. It could be a dedicated server. It could be, if somebody had a really nice computer, they would be a client and the server at the same time. That put a lot more load on that one computer, but it was possible to do it. Unreal, from the very beginning, when they launched the company, their goal was to support multiplayer. They were less concerned about real-time strategy or platformers or things like that. They wanted to do multiplayer games. So Unreal is specifically designed to accomplish that. The environment, including all of the objects, all the different things, are included in that server, that listen server. So when I jump up on something, that object, that location translates through the server to the other clients. So each one of these screens that I've got on my screen is a client. When I launch a game, say Fortnite, League of Legends, whatever we're playing, we have a client that we're running, and it is connecting to a server. Whether that server is remote or local doesn't really matter, other than how quickly the information is passed from place to place.
So the listen server aggregates information and spits it back out.
Yes, a dedicated server or a listen server does not play the game. There's no player on that computer or that server. And it doesn't even have to have any visuals. Because does the computer really need visuals? No, usually. No. Until Skynet gets here, we're not going to worry about that. So a listen server hosts the game. Now, I've got 2 games, 2 clients, and a listen server running on my laptop at this moment. I'm going to actually stop that. So take some stress off the laptop.
It's only when you play with the other screen.
Exactly. And that is launched by the game, and I'm going to show you how to modify that in just a few minutes. So that is all being stored on the client as well as on the server. The task of our task going forward is passing information from the client to the server, or telling the server what information needs to be passed back to the clients. That's where the challenge of it comes into it. Passing the information to the server and back. To begin with, this first week or two, we're going to keep everything local on your laptop. And then in a couple of weeks, we're going to shift to using Steam as our server. Now, there are two primary server tools out there. One is Steam. The other is EOS, or Epic Online Services. Those are the two big servers or services that are out there. This is more of a recent development. It used to be, and I'm talking like less than 5 years ago, it used to be that if you wanted to do a multiplayer game, you had to create the client, you had to build the hardware for the server. All of it had to be done. There were not server environments that you could upload all of this to do the hosting. Now, Amazon's got GameLift, Epic's got EOS, Steam has their Steam Core, and all of these services allow us to put our information on there so that they can do multiplayer. To simplify multiplayer. And really, this environment's changed like within the last 2 or 3 years. This is a huge set of development and making things easier. We can do all of this through Blueprint. What are some types of multiplayer games? Thank you, Drew. So, first-person shooters. What? No, style.
MMORPG.
MMORPG. Platformers. Real-time strategy. So let's break these down a little bit into even more general. Make them even more general. More general than that. So we've got. We have some games that are multiplayer that are turn-based. Checkers, chess, some card games. They're all, you have to wait for the other players to complete their activity before you can do your next move. And these are usually very long playing. Unreal's not the best engine for that. It's really not made for turn-based type information. Unreal was designed to do that sub-second response to activities so that you can really be able to respond to things quickly. So that leaves two other types of multiplayer that we're going to be concerned about. One is real time. Everything is happening in real time, but it only exists for that session. So, Fortnite, when a game begins, the environment is reset. It's constantly being reset every time a new game session begins. Now, that may be something that is launched by a local person or someone who has the ability to set up a server, and they say, hey, we're going to play whatever game, and we'll play for the next hour. At the end of that hour, the server resets the game. The other type of multiplayer is a persistent. World of Warcraft, MMORPGs. Those type of games, the environment continues to exist and be played in perpetuity. There we go. We're going to go with what you said. It continues to exist even outside or you logging off. It is being run by another entity, organization, for the continued play of that game. So Unreal has great support for both real-time sessions and for the persistent. It can be used for making both. It's probably better for the session, but they're really working on upping the game for that MMO persistent environment, because that's what's going to be required of the metaverse. And that's where major game engines are putting all of their focus on, being able to create persistent environments, persistent worlds, so to speak. So when we talk about client server, we need to remember that this could be referring to peer-to-peer, where two people decide that they're going to play head-to-head. They're going to just a few people, and all information from one computer is sent to all the other computers that are on that network. That's our LAN style game. Peer-to-peer, there is no one central server. All the connected computers are acting as clients and servers, passing that information together, back and forth. And this was very common in the 90s and even early 2000s. But as network communications improved, the speed of that communication improved. Let's face it, we've got fiber optics to a lot of homes now. It's the speed of networking has dramatically improved compared to the 90s, where we had dial-up modems at 33 kilobits per second. Now I'm getting 4 meg, 8 meg, 10 meg downloads per second. So the speed of the internet has dramatically increased, but it has allowed us to do really new and cool things. So the listen server is something that is launched for a session, just like we just did on our computers, and it is able to host and listen for communications from other games that are playing this. I could compile and launch this game, publish my IP address, and host anybody that had one of the clients, and they could connect to my computer. My computer would then act as a listen server as well as a client. And then we have dedicated servers. These are usually in the cloud, hosted by Google, Amazon, Steam, Epic. One of those companies hosts that server, and it's in the cloud. Amazon's invested a huge amount of money to get into this space. Epic and Steam are putting a lot of money into this. Microsoft's trying to get into that arena as well because of the whole Xbox thing. So we've got a lot of competition, which has brought the pricing to be able to host a server. It used to be tens of thousands of dollars to host a dedicated server per month. Now we're looking at hundreds or less. So the prices have dramatically dropped depending upon the size of your world and how many people are connecting to it at one time. On Thursday, we're going to talk about replication and getting information to pass from client to server. Okay? So we'll stop at that point.